Hello and welcome to Fine is a four-letter word. My guest today is Justin Keltner. Welcome to the show, Justin.
Thanks so much for having me, Lori. It's great to be here.
Yeah, well, let's just jump right in. Oh, I just want to mention, too, that you and I met through like an online networking group, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So many good ways to meet people these days. Like, that's one good thing, I guess, that came out of, well, we were doing Zoom meetings before that, but from pandemic, a lot more
It just kind of made
interaction.
everything so much more accessible, and you really don't have to be in one specific location. Like I'm out here in Guadalajara, Mexico, and I could just as well be in LA or New York or Miami. Nobody would
Right.
really know the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and
There's
I
so
want to
many.
talk a little bit about that in a minute, because you call yourself a digital nomad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Before we get to that, and before we get to how you became one, I want to go back a few years. Tell me what the values and beliefs that you were raised with. What did you learn growing up, and how has that impacted you as an adult?
I think there's a lot of angles there. So when you say values and beliefs, do you mean like around money, around family, around relationships?
However
There's
you
so
want to
many different
interpret
areas.
that.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go with it? What were the ones that really shaped you into who you are?
Well, let's start with the positive. I would say that my grandparents were probably some of the strongest positive role models that I had growing up, specifically in that they're both immigrants. They came from Russia, and their family, well, actually, they came from Ukraine, but their family before that came from Russia. And so they were immigrants to the U.S., and one of the biggest values I think that I learned from my grandparents was just the value of hard work. And there's different sides to that coin, I suppose, because I can certainly feel myself even today just kind of hitting up against that pattern sometimes of you need to work hard for money. You need to work hard for money. But there was definitely this drive that was instilled in me at an early age of entrepreneurship, and my parents were also entrepreneurs. They had a mortgage business for many years, and so kind of between my parents and my grandparents, it was always like, you're not taking just a job or a handout or just clocking in. You're really being entrepreneurial and putting in the work and the time to make money, while also, for the most part, living life on your terms. Again, there's all sorts of sides to that coin, because on one hand, you have a lot of freedom as an entrepreneur, and then on the other hand, you're responsible for absolutely everything in your business and in your life. So that was definitely from a business and entrepreneurial growth perspective. That was certainly one of the things that influenced me.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of times when you talk to people about being an entrepreneur, they think of it as being so risky and scary and unstable. At the same time, right? Yeah.
Here's the thing, like having a job is actually really unstable.
I was just going to
And
say.
you look at these hundreds of thousands of layoffs here just in the last couple months.
Right.
With all these tech companies, like when you one book that I really recommend is called Choose Yourself by James Altucher, and he's got another one called The Choose Yourself Guide to Wealth, but those two books were very impactful for me. And one of the things that he talks about is this whole idea of how many sources of income that do you have, and the way that he puts it is how many people can say no to you. So if you were to be rejected, let's say by your boss, and they say, okay, no, you're not working with us anymore, what happens? Basically, you're screwed. Versus if you've got 5 or 10 or 15 clients that you're doing services for, which personally I'm transitioning out of in a big way, and I'm looking at a bigger picture and saying, okay, well, how do I take that a step up and say, make my income much less reliant on one or a small group of people. And the way to do that is to build your audience and to have things that you're selling that aren't just reliant on you, because then you can scale both your impact and also it's a big diversification thing, right? So
Right.
that's what people think though with jobs, is that they're stable, but in reality, no, they could fire you tomorrow. But if you have your own business, yes, if there's a big client or two and they all stop paying you, that could be a problem. But it's a lot less likely that all of those things happen in a negative way versus, okay, tomorrow you no longer have a job. So
Yeah,
I think that there's
completely
different
agree with
types of
that.
risk, but
Yeah.
long term, I don't think that entrepreneurship is necessarily more risky than having a job.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I was just saying what I've heard a lot of
Yeah.
people say.
Oh, I know, and that's why I wanted to touch on it.
Usually they're the
'Cause
ones who are not the entrepreneurs, right? The entrepreneurs are not saying that. They're saying, I'm unemployable now. So
it's true. I mean, once you have a taste of working for yourself and the freedom that gives you, it's very difficult to be able to go and be part of an ecosystem that maybe isn't the most efficient way for you to deliver your value to
Yeah.
the world.
yeah,
So.
it's not comfortable at all. All right, you mentioned your grandparents were from Ukraine and Russia before, your family before that. Do you know how to speak Russian?
I
Did
do.
they teach you? Okay.
Yeah.
I was asking
I'm a little
because-
rusty, but
Yeah, but they did teach you.
but yeah, I grew up speaking English and Russian and now Spanish.
Okay. Because my grandfather came from there, and then I think he never spoke another word except English and did not teach my father. So, yeah, it's.
I think it's
different.
really important to teach your kids and your grandkids the native tongue, because otherwise language and culture just kind of gets lost through generations, and yeah, America's a big melting pot, but also it's important to preserve your native language and your native culture and all these other things that really make you who you are. Because
Yeah.
even if we don't know it, there's all those things from our grandparents and parents and our ancestors. They influence us, even if on a subconscious level, in so many different ways.
Yeah. So going back to the values and beliefs that you were raised with, those were the positive ones. And you mentioned the hard work thing, which I think we may have talked about before in our first conversation, about that double-edged sword, because then you get that you've been trained or brainwashed with the belief that hard work is what leads to success. And so you are in this vicious circle of, I must work harder to be more successful, to accomplish more, to produce more. And then that just leads to burnout and overwhelm.
Yeah, that's so true. It's never about working harder. It's about becoming more efficient in, well, frankly, in the output, right? And making sure that the output is something that people actually want. That's what I've learned anyway.
Yeah. Well, and you started out talking about output working with computers.
So it's funny. I'll tell you like a little more of a personal angle on this. But when I was growing up, well, I mean, my parents kind of both had their own shit going on, right? Like with patterns and addictions and different things that perhaps weren't the most conducive to family growth and connection and things like that. When I was 5.5, I built my first website, and I was able to do that because my dad, I mean, I'm sure he's like, okay, Justin will probably enjoy this, but also he's like, how can I occupy this little child? And yeah, and so he sat me down in front of the computer and showed me how to use a program called Microsoft Front Page. This was in '97, I believe, and made sure that I did every single keystroke myself. So I actually built the thing. It wasn't like, oh, this is Justin. Like I really built it. And little by little, I started building a stronger connection with computers and with technology. And one of the things that I realized, and this has been through a lot of just really years and years of personal development work and discovery and things like that, but I realized that some of the patterns that I created early on were from realizing that the environment around me was a little bit, shall we say, I don't know if trepidatious is the word, but chaotic and
Unstable?
Unstable. There weren't very many things that I could really accurately predict. And so I realized that computers were extremely predictable. I could put one piece of data in and then expect to get another piece of data out. and most of the time it would work fairly well. And so I realized, hey, I can trust in this thing in front of me. So that's where I ended up teaching myself computer programming and software design, and later marketing and business. But it all started around that love for technology that, if I'm being honest, was probably in big part created from that void, or from a lack of having that same thing in what I would call the real world.
Yeah.
And the irony is, this thing called life is really the best virtual reality game that was ever created, and people are still, entrenched in the Xbox and the goggles and all these other things. This is the best virtual reality game, but I didn't know that, and so I thought that was like more real than all of this around us is.
Well, yeah, it was for sure more predictable, because this all around us is not predictable at all. And that's part of the lessons that we learn, right? About allowing things to be instead of trying to force them to be what you expect or would like. I just go back to that whole thing of, like, a lot of times we talk about making things happen, and there's only so much you can do to contribute to something, to an outcome. But you can rarely predict exactly, as easily as you can with a computer program, what's going to happen in the real world.
That's true. And there certainly are ways to make life and business more predictable. I think that actually, and I don't know if this is going like too tangential, but the way that I did it is I modeled, in many ways, I modeled reality upon what I learned about computers and technology.
Tell me more. This is
Yeah.
I don't think this is tangent. I think this is where we're supposed to go.
Sure. So, wow, I don't think I've ever really delved into this before in terms of just sort of meta-analyzing it, but here's what it looks like kind of on a day-to-day. Whenever certain situations arise in life, there's an opportunity to learn from that situation. And you could say learn in the generic term of, oh, like, great, I learned a lesson, I learned something there. But instead of just basing my learning on the outcome, what I like to do is reverse engineer the entire situation and say, what is really going on here, like at a pattern level? So you reverse engineer the entire thing and you look at it as a process. So, I did X and then Y happened, and then this person said this and then this happened, and then this deal got structured this way, and then this other thing occurred. And so instead of just saying, okay, great, like this is a good experience or a bad experience, and putting a label on it and then putting it in a nice little box and great, that was it, I just take it apart. So when I was a kid, one of the things that I think maybe pissed my parents off the most was that they would always buy me all these expensive toys. Computers, sure, I didn't really mess with those too much, but like they'd buy me toy airplanes and all these other things, like boats. And what I would do is, instead of just playing with the toy like a normal child, what I would actually take the thing apart. So sometimes I was even able to put it back together. Most of the time I wasn't.
Of course.
But I learned a hell of a lot. Yeah, from the process. That was like, I understood, okay, you've got this chip and this circuit. And when I was 15, I taught myself electrical engineering, and I built a business actually building and selling these high power laser pointers.
Wow. So
I learned like actually how to make circuits and what a diode was, and a capacitor and a resistor, and how they all work together, and the math behind it. But going back to kind of the life analogy here, when you take apart situations like I did with those toy airplanes when I was little, you start to realize that there are certain patterns, and those patterns, whether it's around systems, around processes, around people, those patterns allow you to predict with a pretty good degree of certainty what might happen if you were to enter another similar situation in the future.
I think that you say that because you have the ability to do that, to look at things analytically that way. Well, I don't know. From my standpoint, not being an analytical person in that way, my brain doesn't work that way, that would be a lot harder for me.
That is fair, and for that reason, I have a lot of empathy because I know that not everyone thinks in the same way that we do, or that I do. So, like, there's a lot of different types of thinking styles and different brains, and I'm definitely like the analyzer kind of mad scientist, trying to figure out all these little data points. And I don't know if that's more through nature, like that was just how my brain came to be, or if it was more through nurture. I would assume a little bit of both.
Same. Yeah, I would say the same. Yeah.
But you're right. And that's not to say, though, that it can't be taught to some extent. I think that people, so here's what I realized, and I'll dive into a completely unrelated topic, which is dating, because I think that there's a really good reference here. So you have kind of the analytical types, right? That want to analyze every situation, that are totally in their heads, that are thinking, and then you have, let's just say men, for example, right? So either the ones that are kind of like let's call it nerds, or the jocks.
Okay.
Right? Like those are some good, easy to understand archetypes.
Easy stereotypes, yeah.
Yeah. So the nerd, like me, might, think about asking a girl out, and think about it, and think about it, and then think about all the reasons why she might reject him, and then end up probably not doing it, or if he finally does it, doing it in a way that is just like super awkward because he's like subcommunicated all of that insecurity and all of that overanalysis, which I've totally been guilty of. I didn't know how to talk to girls at all until like way past high school. Like it was a challenge for me. But I had my real love, which was computers, and technology, and business, and like it wasn't that bad. Eventually, I figured it out. But then on the flip side, you have the jocks, and they're just like, okay, great, like we can go for it. We'll just take action, right? That's like it's the analysis versus the action, and the boldness, and sometimes over boldness, and a lot of the times even that is highly uncalibrated. But here's the thing about dating and life and business. That I think is really important for the analytical people to understand. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So my advice for like somebody that's coming at this from my perspective is not analyze things more. In fact, when I say that and I break it down, that's really for the flip side. That's for people that maybe aren't that archetype, but maybe are more of, okay, let's take massive action, pick up the phone, cold, and none of that stuff is bad.
Right.
But I think there's always a balance, right?
Absolutely.
Just like there's a balance with the masculine, the feminine, the yin and the yang energies.
Yeah.
There's always a balance. So people that are on one side of the spectrum, that are over here, and that are, just bold, not really thinking, not really analyzing, I think maybe they get to look for patterns more, and to slow down their thinking, and maybe breathe, and really like look through things and plan. But then on the flip side, the people that are more like I am, or at least like I was before, I kind of, like I said, I did a lot of work, a lot of landmark, and a lot of other personal development workshops that have served a lot over the years, to kind of grow my thinking and my empathy and my action taking, and get rid of the limiting beliefs. But people that are in that segment need to just take more action and get out of their own way and not overanalyze things. That's the key, is to kind of find the middle somewhere. And that's where things really start to harmonize.
Right. And to find the middle, we say middle, but to find the combination that works for you. Because some people are still going to be more analytical than not, or that's
you want to embrace,
embrace who you are. It makes it difficult because when you have a lot of people who are like, let's say they're the gurus who are teaching you how to do X or Y. It's like, well, do it the way I did it. This is how I did it, and I was successful, and so this is how you should do it. When it's really a matter of figuring out what is it that works for you. Taking their advice.
That's exactly right.
You can take advice and pieces of what they've taught, but it's not necessarily going to be word for word the way they did it.
I think that what you're saying is probably the keys to the kingdom in terms of understanding how to view a lot of those courses and training programs that you and I'm sure both have spent upwards of 6 figures on. The key is like that one thing that maybe you can put on your credit card that's going to max it out when you're completely in debt because they're rah and they think that, you know, they have their shit all figured out. Like, that's not necessarily the solution.
Yeah.
They might be the hype men and the people that are able to just do that aggressive sales tactic, but that might not be your jam.
Right.
You want to find what works for you, that yes, you want to push yourself, because if you stay in the same place, you're going to get the same results. If you keep taking the same actions, you're going to get the same results. But you also want to be authentically in alignment with who you are. So you want to stay true to your own character. The key is actually determining in your own mind, and stillness and meditation help a lot for that, but determining, okay, is this thing that I'm thinking about doing, is this a stretch for me? Or is it really just not who I am? Because if it's not who you are and you're out of alignment, it's never going to work.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. What you just said there is, I have to say it again because it's so important. Is this a stretch for me, or is this really out of alignment with who I am? Because they both feel uncomfortable, but one is like a good uncomfortable and the other one is not going to work.
Correct. And I'll add, this gets a little woo-woo, but I think that actually tapping into your body and not just being up in your head, like really grounding yourself, like being in nature, meditating, finding stillness, and a lot of the times just actually checking your gut.
Yeah.
Your gut, I may be slightly off on this, but it's something like twice as many nerves as your brain.
I think it's I think it's like thousands of times more.
There's more nerves actually in total. Yeah, or more, I don't know if it was neurons or I forget what the exact term was, but yeah, there's actually more of that almost cognitive sensibility in your gut than even in your brain. Yes. And people tend to just think from up in your head, and it doesn't work. When you want to check and see if something is authentic to who you are, you need to tap into your body and not just rely on intellect for doing it.
Right. That's why we have that phrase of, you know, feeling it in your gut, or gut check, or whatever, however you want to say it. There's a reason that term exists, that phrase exists. And yeah, like you said, people tend to disregard that, especially in business. They're like, no, I can't use my emotions or my feelings. I have to go with solid, knowledge. And I think it is a combination of both. Sure, collect all your facts and also check with your gut, your intuition. What is it that you do, Justin, to get in touch with, you mentioned meditation. Is that what you use to tap into your inner voice on a regular?
We can go to so many levels here. I think that without getting like super explicit in this area, because there's certain restrictions, but entertaining things like plant medicine. I mean, I'm not saying go and go crazy, and again,
use a guide.
Stay away from getting
a guide.
But finding experiences, medicine from nature, things that take you out of your element and that help you disconnect from your ego. Another thing that works really well is cold exposure. So if you guys have ever followed like Wim Hof, he's got whole courses about this. So the cold exposure and also the breath work, both of them are important, and both help solve complementary and connected issues. So that's a really good one. Breathing, meditation has helped me a lot. I try to do that at least once a day. I'm not always like 100% about it, but that definitely helps to get just like a higher level of connectedness and awareness. And I was gonna say reading, but actually I probably read too much. Like I'll either read or listen to sometimes 1, 2, 3, 4 books a month, and sometimes it's great. Like when I'm really learning something, a new skill. Okay, I'm reading, I'm learning, whatever. But a lot of the time, it's actually better to go on an information diet. And Tim Ferriss talks about this a little bit in the 4-Hour Work Week. But we spend so much time watching TV, listening to audiobooks, listening to podcasts, just like this one. And it's great. Mm-hmm. And podcasts are amazing. And I have one, and you guys should definitely check it out. But don't be filling your brain with other people's stuff all the time. Right. It's good to get inspired, and it's good to get motivated, and it's good to like start to understand what path you want to go down. But then get the specific knowledge, the area knowledge that you need in that thing, and then like go and execute. And you want to have stillness, because the stillness will allow you to process your own thoughts. This is something that actually isn't really widely talked about, at least as far as I'm aware. Mostly because people are selling you the next thing and the next book and the next course, and that's what creates the loudness in the space. But stillness is so important, because most of the stuff that you need to succeed, most of the knowledge that you need to actually reach the level you want is already in your head. You've already observed it, heard it, seen it somewhere.
Right.
And you probably already learned that thing. So instead of trying to add more and more and more and more, it's just like you're at a Thanksgiving dinner. The turkey's so good, the stuffing's so good, you just keep eating more and more and more, and pretty soon, you're the turkey.
Right. Right.
And it's like, no, you don't keep stuffing yourself when you're full. You need to take a break sometimes. And
yeah, I just finished reading a few weeks ago this book called Stolen Focus by Johann Hari, Hari. And he talks... Oh,
you'll have to send that one to me.
Yeah. He talks about the importance of taking time away from all the things, all the distractions, your electronics, all of those things, but the importance of daydreaming, that it is imperative for our ability to focus is to also have the ability to daydream and to be unfocused. Just what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it sounds backwards, but our mind works in very mysterious ways. Napoleon Hill talks a lot about the principle of autosuggestion and the power of the subconscious mind and all these other areas. And it's like, you already have the resources inside you.
Right.
And just let your brain and your subconscious mind, like, let them do the work on your behalf instead of trying to just push through every single thing and figure it out yourself. Yeah,
that comes back to the whole thing of like, I'm going to make this happen. And it's funny that you just mentioned Napoleon Hill, because I am right now rereading for I don't know what number of time this is, Think and Grow Rich. And that's the chapter. One of the chapters is autosuggestion. But yes, you need to let your brain kind of marinate in all of the ideas that you have taken in and see what comes out from that. Yeah.
100%.
Good stuff. All right. So that's what you do. Did that lead to you moving to Mexico? Like your need to get away from some of the, I don't know, all the type A people in the United States?
Well, it's less the type A people and more that the U.S. right now is just a complete wreck.
Okay.
For so many reasons, but I'm actually in the middle of another move. So I decided about a week ago that I'm in a big city now here in Mexico, and I decided about a week ago, you know what, I'm done with it. Screw it. Like I want to be on the beach. And my dog, who maybe you guys can see back there, she loves to swim in the ocean, chase balls in the through the waves and run around free, and it's just like there's nowhere really to do that here. And I like peace. I like to be in nature and to connect with nature and to connect with other people that are more about spirituality and connection and freedom than just like being four walls around you. So I'm in the middle of another move now, but what brought me down here, I think in big part it was a desire for freedom. I think in many ways I do feel like people in general have more personal liberties and freedoms down here than they do in North America. Well, in other parts of North America.
Is it more of an enjoyment of life?
It is. It's enjoyment of life. It's connection to family values. It's just overall happiness. It's funny. I was living in Colombia for 3 years, and so I got into this nasty habit of saying "hola" to people when they came onto the elevator. Because that's what everybody did. Like, you said hello. Every time somebody came on or off an elevator, people said hello to each other. Every time a person left, they said, hasta luego, buenas tardes, like, have a good one, right? I did that once in Hollywood. Everybody looked at me like I was crazy. Like, hello. Everybody's like, who the hell is this guy?
Why is he talking to us?
Yeah. It's like, wait, no. That's actually normal. The fact that we're all in most of the West. I mean, think about it. You've got all these like human beings around you. You go to like a store, you're walking on the sidewalk. You've got all these people around you, that you're even in close proximity to, and you don't even acknowledge their presence.
Right.
And by the way, and I'm not saying this from like a, everybody that doesn't do that is bad. Like, it's not on an individual level even. It's just kind of a societal thing. And I know I'm very gifted to be able to live here as an expat and have, be making money in dollars and other currencies and be spending it in pesos. So like, I'm very grateful, coming here. It's not like, I have a very good quality of life, even compared to a lot of people here, for sure. So I'm extremely grateful. Like, don't get me wrong at all. And I'm grateful to have been born in the U.S. and to have had a lot of the opportunities that I've had. But yeah, societally, I think there's a lot of challenges up there.
Well, you mentioned the whole disconnection, which, that's like one of the biggest epidemics. I don't know what the right word there is, in our culture.
Don't get me started about that one.
No. I mean, the disconnection of people and the loneliness as a major factor for reducing lifespan. Like,
of course,
that sense of disconnection from other humans that accounts for so much, so many things, so many issues and challenges. But yeah, just that, like, what if people actually did connect with each other the way you're saying that you had the experience, instead of just ignoring each other and pretending that they don't exist? It would be very different.
It makes life a lot more enjoyable, for sure.
Yeah.
There's a really good book I read because I was struggling with depression for years. And I thought, okay, medication is the answer. And I tried that. And I thought, this is the answer. And like, none of it really worked. I read this book. It's called Lost Connections. And little controversial, but it talks about exactly that. How the cause of a lot of the depression, which obviously definitely connects to suicide rates and lifespan and all these other things, the cause of a lot of depression, if not all of it, is lack of connection with fellow human beings. People underestimate how much that really matters, and even with friends. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying that everything is so much better in Latin America, because there's good things and there's bad things, but I strongly believe that we as a society in the whole world need to place a greater emphasis on the collective, like, connection. And I don't mean that in like a socialistic way.
Right.
But I mean, instead of just saying, okay, I need money, I need this to be happy, looking at all of the humans around you as part of a very interconnected system. And even from a business standpoint, like, what is money really the result of? Well, it's a result of relationships. It's a result of human interactions. It's a result of you being able to genuinely connect with someone and communicate the value that you can bring to that person. Right. And so it's all interrelated in ways that people just don't give it credit for. And I think that's why so many people are stuck both in the negative feelings and also in the negative results.
Yes, 100%. And that energetically we are all connected, and understanding that, and that's a whole other place we could go, but we don't have time. But but the energetic connection of it being like a tapestry of everybody in the world connected to everybody else. You mentioned lost connections, and as soon as you said it, I was like, yep, that's the same guy who wrote Stolen Focus.
Interesting. So wow, we're so
Look at
connected
this.
already.
Yeah.
Look at that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I haven't read that book. And he has a third one too, about something else, the drug war or something like that. I haven't read either one of those, but now that I read Soul and Focused, I want to go back and read those other ones too. So yeah. Wow, we've covered a lot of ground today. Thank
Cool.
you. Before we go, two more questions. The one, what's your hype song? Like, you're pretty chill guy. When you need an extra boost of energy, what do you listen to?
Yeah, I really love Levels by the late Avicii. He was one of the most inspirational artists for me just because of the way that his music really connects. And there's certainly different genres of music, but yeah, some of his stuff just really really resonates, and it gets me going, and yeah, it's just great music to wake up to and party to, or whatever you're doing.
Very cool. And then lastly, if somebody wants to continue this awesome conversation with you, how do they find you?
Pretty much on all the socials, Justin T. Keltner, and I'm sure you can paste that in the
Yep, I'll put
in the
it
show
in the show
notes,
notes.
or justinkeltner.com. They can reach out to me there, or send me a message on Instagram, Facebook, wherever. And yeah, happy to chat. I don't have anything really specific yet with any of this, as far as here's a link, or here's something that you can see. But I definitely will soon. I'm working on a lot of content in the space, and we'll also be leading a retreat a little later this year, specifically a men's retreat, where we're going to be diving into a lot of personal growth work and very strong, vulnerable conversations, and other things. So follow me. You can keep an eye out for that. And yeah, would love to chat with anybody that's a listener here, if there's anything that I can be of service with.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll put links to that. We'll put links to the book, both of those books, and anything else we mentioned. My production team will put links in the show notes so everybody can find everything.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Justin, on Fine is a 4-letter word.
Thank you for having me.